So how many times do you come across information on the internet or in articles telling you that you need to eat a specific diet in order to get your dream body, or you need to do a specific exercise in order to blow up this muscle group or become jacked, or that, maybe you need to take a specific supplement in order for you to lose fat and get that six pack? Probably all the time, right? The reality of the situation is that getting your dream physique doesn't have to be complex. It isn't easy, all right? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's going to be super easy, because anything worth having in life is not going to be easy. But it's a lot simpler than you think. And I want to share kind of what's worked for me to transform my physique, going from sort of skinny fat to jacked. And I want you to actually be able to transform and get that dream body, that dream physique, as fast as possible. So this is going to be just an honest guide of my experiences, my opinions, and information that I've gathered. And it's just going to be basically, I guess we'll just go through, it's going to be 5 steps to get your dream physique. All right, so step 1 is pretty simple, right? You need to, first of all, identify where you are and where you want to go. So let's kind of identify like the dream body or dream physique. And this really kind of applies to men, obviously, because I'm a man. I can't really speak for women, the same way. So for guys, essentially what we're trying to achieve is what you may be hearing online a lot, is people say aesthetic, right? Aesthetic physique. And what this means essentially is, someone who kind of has sort of broad shoulders, decent sized chest, right? They've got that V taper. And a lot of times we're going after this as guys is because this is really the most attractive physique that you can have. And to most women, they've even done studies on this, having very wide shoulders and a sort of narrow waist is really helpful in terms of being able to attract the opposite sex. And so that's why a lot of us go after this sort of goal of kind of being aesthetic. Obviously, there's other things involved with it, as feeling healthier, having more confidence. But at the end of the day, we kind of know what the main objective is. So essentially, the aesthetic physique just means that you're lean enough, right, to where your body fat isn't very high. And so it kind of helps the muscle that you've built really kind of peek through. So you need to make sure that you've built up enough muscle, like muscle definition, and you've actually put on some muscle mass. But you also need to make sure that your body fat percentage, right, the amount of body fat that's on you, is low enough so that the muscle that you've built can kind of come through. So really the fastest way to do this is going to be through resistance training. So resistance training is just simply, lifting weights, right? You can go to the gym, you can do it at home, it doesn't really matter. But the reason why this is faster than say something like calisthenics, where you have to do just body weight, is that you can increase the weight beyond what your body actually weighs, right? So with something like calisthenics or just different types of exercise, yes, you can build muscle and yes, you can get a great physique, but if you want to do it fast, resistance training is the fastest way, because you can load your body with more weight than what your body weighs if you're just trying to do body weight. So if I go to the gym, I can literally lift weight that weighs more than my body itself. And so that's why it's so effective, is because you can really force your body and muscles to grow fast. And so essentially the reason why we do resistance training is because we need to progressive overload our body. And what that means is you're putting heavier and heavier and heavier weight on your muscles. And so it's breaking them down, but over time they have to respond. And so they grow bigger, right? They have to respond and kind of get the body up to that ability to lift that weight, because your body's thinking, oh, we are consistently lifting this heavy weight. I need to adapt, I need to respond, and I need to build bigger muscle. And so that's why resistance training is so good for getting to this ideal sort of end result of our dream body, or an aesthetic physique, is because it really helps put that stimulus on your body to grow your muscles and actually make you bigger. So we know progressive overload is super important, right? And so how do we kind of know whether or not we're increasing, decreasing? How do we kind of keep track of all this? In the beginning, when I first started lifting, I did not really keep track of my progressive overload, and it cost me a lot of time wasted. If you're going to the gym and you aren't lifting heavier weights, or you are not increasing your reps, right? Or you're not slowing it down and making it harder for yourself every time, you aren't doing enough to actually grow. And a lot of people get stuck. Oh, I'm not seeing results, man. What the heck? I've been going to the gym for a year, but I barely built any muscle. The reason why 9 times out of 10 is they don't have either a good enough program or system, but a lot of times it just simply comes down to they're not pushing hard enough. You're not progressive overloading. So essentially every week you go into the gym, you want to be aiming to add on, say, 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds onto the bar or the dumbbell, whatever exercise you're doing. And the reason why you want to do that is because over time you want to be adding and stacking more and more weight and forcing your body to adapt, right? We just talked about how the resistance training works. In order to do that, you need to be adding on 2.5, 5 pounds. You don't need to be every week trying to add on like 10, 20 pounds, bro. That's not the idea, right? You don't want to get your ego involved and be like, oh yeah. And you also don't want to go too fast, because then you might stall out. So you want to keep it slow and steady, right? Slow and steady wins the race. That's the name of the game when you're trying to build your physique. Slow and steady, but make sure you're on the right track. One of the best ways to keep track of your progressive overloading is by downloading apps, right? Any sort of app that tracks your workouts. Me particularly, I like an app called Strong. You can go on the App Store, you can go on the Google Play Store. It's an app called Strong, and it's just a picture of like a barbell. That app is amazing, and it's perfect for tracking your workouts because it tells you what you did the previous week. And so you know exactly what you did the previous week and for how many reps and how much, right? And it tells you the total amount of weight you lifted. It tells you what PRs you got. And so it's really good at keeping track. You want to have a fucking app. Do not try to use a notepad. Do not try to just remember in your mind. It's not going to work. And if you feel like, oh, I'm not really seeing results, but over this past year, I've been just trying to keep track in my head, it's not going to work. You know why? Your body is not going to naturally want to lift heavier and heavier weights because it costs your body more energy and your brain's not going to want to do it. So your brain literally will fuck you over in this situation because it doesn't want you lifting heavier weights. Lifting heavier weights means pain. It means more energy burnt. It means more calories spent. And so you need to keep track and actually keep track on something that's legitimate, right? Like an app that will be saved, like your information will be saved and you can see your history. Not like a notepad where you're going to lose it or it might get scribbled, or your mind where you're just going to forget or make up some excuse. So you need to actually keep track on an app. Highly recommend you download the app called Strong. All right, so the next step is going to be to actually make a schedule and stick to it. A lot of people go into the gym and they just like willy-nilly just going in there, lifting weights, like doing different things every single time. This is not the appropriate thing to do if you want to transform your physique fast, okay? You want to have an actual schedule that you follow. You want to have a plan, a strategy that you're going in there with. And the reason why you want to do this is because it just makes it easier. It just makes it so much easier when you actually have a plan and a strategy and a schedule to stick to. So whatever split works for you is what you can use. I don't know in your particular situation right now, how much time do you have to really spend in the gym? Is it 4 hours a week, 2 hours a week? Do you have 2 jobs? Can you only go once or twice a week? It's hard for me to really tell you what you should do, but some general guidelines I can give you is that if you want to get this done fast, you want to be training every single muscle group at least twice per week, right? Doing this sort of full body thing is okay. You can do that for a little while, but I would highly recommend that you at least start out, if you want to actually do this fast and you want to get that sort of aesthetic, attractive physique, I recommend that you go with something like an upper-lower split. So what does that mean? It means 2 days out of the week, you're going to train your upper body, and 2 days out of the week, you're going to train your lower body. And so that's a great sort of beginner way to get into it because you don't need to spend a ton of time in the gym to get results, but you're training your muscles twice a week. If you don't think you really have that much time, an upper lower split is good. If you have to do a full body split, that's okay. It's just gonna be harder for you to really isolate the muscles that we're gonna be talking about next. The other thing I wanna say is it's not really appropriate for you to go into the gym and be changing your exercises every single time you go in. I know maybe your favorite influencer or YouTuber goes into the gym and just kind of shows you like this crazy workout and it's different every single time and all this, but you have to realize, man, you are not a YouTube influencer, right? These people that you're watching on social media, okay, besides yours truly here, have been training for years, 3, 4, 5 years. And on top of that, a lot of what you see, they're not natural like you. They're not like you. They're not like me. So we have to do things differently than those people, right? Because we can't just walk into the gym, do a random workout, and gain 5 pounds of muscle. We're not on steroids, right? We're not on gear. So it's different when you're kind of approaching this from the perspective of making sure you're staying natural and thinking about longevity and not just quick instant gratification. It's not about going into the gym and just doing random workouts. Stick with, a specific routine that you developed or that you've gotten from somebody. Stick with that routine for, give yourself a few weeks at least, give yourself a month at least. That way you can kind of get used to those exercises. You can kind of get the form down and you can kind of make sure that you're actually doing progressive overload. Say you're doing bench press, but you only do it for 2 weeks. Then you move over to dumbbells. It's a totally different thing. So you may think that you're progressive overloading, but really you're not because you just keep swapping back and forth every single week. Actually, take some time, be patient. Delayed gratification is the name of the game. Stick with that specific routine, stick with those exercises that you've picked out, and make sure that you're sticking with them for at least a month, 6 weeks, and you're actually seeing progress and your form is actually improving because you're doing them repeatedly before you switch out your exercises or move to a different routine. So let's talk about what muscles you should focus on in the gym, right? This is kind of the next step. So if you got sort of a training split down that you want to do, you got some exercises maybe that you've picked out, maybe you don't even know what muscles you should really be focusing on as a guy. And it's different for women because what attracts the opposite sex is different in each gender, right? Like we're much more concerned about a woman's lower body, right? Women are much more attracted to a guy who's got like a strong, wide upper body. And so if you want to develop that sort of aesthetic, attractive physique, what you need to do is you need to focus on some key areas. So the first thing that you want to focus on in terms of your muscles is going to be your shoulders, right? You actually want to build bigger shoulders and you want to try to get them wide, right? You want to try to make them as wide as possible. And so I'm not going to go deep into exercises that you should be using. That's a whole routine. That's a whole nother video. I just want to give you sort of the overview. So you want to focus on your shoulders, widen your shoulders, make them bigger, right? Focus on the front shoulders, the rear, and the sides. Not just the sides, okay? Not just the sides, because you want to actually have a sort of 3D look so that from any angle that you're looking at, they look like formidable pair of shoulders, okay? The second thing you want to really focus on is, of course, your chest. The chest is pretty important because that's kind of what fills out and gives you that masculine look. If you have a really bad looking chest and it's really just flat and your shoulders are out, everything looks off. The proportions are just weird. And so it's really key that you focus too on the upper chest, okay? The upper chest is more important than focusing on the lower chest because usually your lower chest is already built up. It's your upper chest that's weaker. And so if you can build up your upper chest, you get a nice sort of look where it kind of pops out, right? It sort of pops out and you get that sort of scoop around the neck. Freaking perfect, okay? That's exactly what you want to do. Focus on the upper chest. Don't spend so much time on the mid and lower chest. Your whole chest will be worked, but there's certain exercises that people fall into as a habit to be working their lower chest. And then you get this look where it's like your lower chest is coming out to here, but your upper chest is like here. You know what I mean? Like your upper chest is here. And so it gives you this weird sort of slant look. And it doesn't look good. You want your entire chest to really kind of have a symmetry to it. So really focus on the upper chest because it's typically neglected. All right, next thing that you really want to focus on is going to be the lats, right? The lats are responsible for kind of being from up here in your armpit all the way down to your lower back, right? Now, the lats are important because they give you that sort of illusion. If you build them up and you build them properly, they give you that sort of V taper. The V taper is really important. The reason why this is important is because the V taper, it helps give you a wider look up at the top. And then as it comes down, it gives you that narrow waist look. Because essentially what we're going for here at the end of the day, what we really want. So we want wide shoulders coming down into a narrow waist. And it's called the shoulder to hip ratio, all right? It's really important. And so we want to really make sure that we improve that because over time, as we get bigger and we go through our bulking and cutting cycles, putting on more muscle, losing fat, it's going to make us look freaking amazing. It's going to make you look like a fucking Greek god or a superhero, okay? And so that's what we really want to focus on. We really want to do that by increasing the lat size. And so you can do that by focusing more on the upper lats because it'll help you give that wider look as it comes down into your torso. So the last muscle group I want to talk about is going to be the abs. Yes, the coveted six-pack. I know you watching this video right now. I know you want that six-pack, okay? If you do have a six-pack, I don't know why you're watching this video. Essentially, when it comes down to it is for you to get a six-pack, there's two things that need to happen, okay? You need to, number one, actually build your six-pack. Just like with the entire physique, it's the same thing. It's no different. There's so much marketing and jargon and all these potions and magic spells about your six-pack. It's all bullshit, man. It's all marketing. At the end of the day, building your dream physique just comes down to you doing the work. And yes, there are definitely things that will save you time. There's information and there's different hacks and tricks and different things that you can learn that will save you time and make this process go faster. And that's why I'm making this video, right? I want you to actually transform your physique faster. But at the end of the day, you still have to put in the work. So there's no special magic formula that's going to make you have a popping six-pack. It's going to give you that 3D carb six-pack. It's just not going to happen. What you need to do is just like all your other muscles in your body, focus on building the six-pack, actually building it, making it bigger in terms of the muscles, right? The abs, the abdominal muscles, make them bigger, and then cut down, cut all your fat off, and you will see your abs. Now, if right now you have no muscle build and you just cut down, your abs are going to look like shit. 9 times out of 10, unless you have great genetics, you're not even going to really see your abs. They're going to look weak. They might be just kind of out of place or just fucking weird. So don't do that. Don't just try to go after the six-pack right off the bat when you're a beginner. Focus more on taking that time to actually build muscle. And over time, after you're done building muscle, then you can kind of reveal what you've built. But if you haven't earned the right to sport a six-pack yet, don't try to do it, bro, because it's not going to work. It's going to fail. And then you're just going to look like an idiot and you would have wasted a ton of time. So maybe some of you don't want to actually have a defined six-pack, which is fine. You can still, kind of cut down enough and lose some body fat in order for you to have a flat stomach. Part of the dream body and the sort of aesthetic look is making sure that you at least have a flat stomach. You don't need to have a six-pack abs. Don't fall into this whole thing of everybody you see on social media with ripped six-pack abs, but you want to at least go for a sort of flat, toned up stomach that is, representing the fact that your physique and you're in good shape, you're in good health. And that's really all you need. You don't need to have a crazy six-pack. And now I know a lot of you listening to this right now aren't going to listen to me because when I started, I was like, yo, I want a nice fucking shredded popping six-pack. But remember, the most important thing is that we're going after healthier. And having a super shredded six-pack is not actually healthy, contrary to what you may think. So really just aim, at least as a beginner, for a sort of flat, toned up stomach, and that will be perfect. So now you understand what muscles you should really be focusing on in the gym. Let's hop into the next big area of building your dream physique, which is going to be diet. There's so much information on diet. There's literal cults telling you do this, do that. You cannot be a vegan. You cannot be carnivore. You cannot be keto, paleo, whatever the fuck diets, right? At the end of the day, man, all of us are different. We're all going to have different body types. We're all going to have different preferences. We're all going to come from different areas with different backgrounds. I cannot sit here and prescribe to you a diet that I think that you should be on. We all have different medical conditions even, right? I can't sit here and tell you, hey, this is the diet you need to do. This is the diet you need to be on. And I really don't believe in diets in the sense of this is something that you're going to do, because even the word diet just assumes that it's going to be some short-term thing. I like to make changes that are lifelong, right? I like to play the sort of infinite game where I make one change and it's for life. This is a lifestyle that I can actually, continue to do. So when we think about diet, you have to think, what is actually sustainable? If you're doing this for a health reason and it's just temporary, that's one thing. But if you're going to make this your day-to-day thing, what is sustainable for you? Is it sustainable for you to be a vegan? Is it sustainable for you to, be a carnivore? Is it sustainable for you to eat Burger King every day? What is sustainable for you? And you have to start there. You have to be honest with yourself. And you may not like kind of what you come up with as to what's sustainable right now. You may not have the sort of funds or the extra income to go buy the food that you want to have. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is the basic principle that yes, you can have a dream physique, you can have a great physique, you can have a six-pack, eating burgers, eating pizza. It doesn't come down, it's not about that. It's about the calories, right? Calories in and the calories out. However, it will affect every other area of your life. If you're eating a shit diet and you're eating a bunch of fast food all the time, I'm not talking about here and there or whatever. If you're constantly eating fast food, if you're constantly eating crap, it will affect your energy levels. It will affect your testosterone. It will affect every area of your life, essentially, to the point where it's going to be so much harder for you to build that physique, and it's going to take so much longer that it makes so much more sense to go for the unprocessed foods, right? Now, it's very difficult to do this, especially if you're coming from a very high dopamine diet, which I kind of think of as a very high sugar, high fat diet, because your brain is used to constantly getting that dopamine hit of, oh, look, let me go have some cake. Oh, look, let me go have, this burger here, or oh, let me go get this and that. It can be very difficult if you're doing a high sugar, high fat diet to come off of that and to kind of transition into low sugar diets. Very hard to kind of cut out a lot of the carbs and the sugar and kind of transition into something else. But what I can tell you is, from my experience, I've tried a bunch of different diets. I would really recommend that you give it at least a try to go for an unprocessed food diet, which means you're cutting out things like pizza, you're cutting out things like fries, ice cream, cake, any type of like desserts like that, anything that's super like carby, high glycemic. You cut those things out just for the health benefits, for your testosterone, for your muscle building, for your mental processes. You will find that your life will rapidly change when you do that. Now, in terms of the actual macros of those diets, for me, what works well for me for now, a high protein and a sort of high fat diet. High fat, high protein. Now, high fat, keep this in mind, high fat. When you hear high fat, that is a macro. That does not mean that you're going to get fat. If you eat a lot of fats, it does not mean that you're going to get fat, okay? It doesn't mean that. All fat is it's just a type of macronutrient. And it's really important that you have enough fats in your system to balance out your hormones. You also want to make sure that you have enough protein in your diet so that you can build muscle. Typically, people say 1 gram per pound. So if you weigh 140 pounds right now, try to get in 140 grams of protein every single day. Now, you can spread those out across meals, of course. Maybe try 30, 40 grams every single meal. Now, again, this is not something that you need to freak out about. If you're only getting in 0.6, 0.8 grams per pound, it's fine. You're literally getting more than most people do. So you're okay. You're still going to build muscle. Don't freak out about this. Don't get mental health issues over trying to get enough protein, right? And getting the exact amount. Make sure that building your physique is improving the rest of your life, not taking away from it. Don't let all these other aspects of building your physique take over your life to the point where you can't enjoy anything. The same goes for the diet. I say unprocessed foods, but guess what? I still eat unprocessed foods, or I still eat processed foods, right? I just make sure that it's 80-20. 80% of the time, my every day-to-day diet doesn't include any of that shit. But hey, if we go out, I want to get a fucking ice cream cone. I want to go out, I want to get a dessert, I want to get a milkshake or something like that. Dude, I'm going to fucking do it, man. We're human beings. We're not robots, right? And so you just have to keep everything in balance. So there's 2 apps that will help you with this as well, okay? You're going to need to eventually start tracking your macros, so you might as well start now. In the beginning, you don't need to worry about tracking your macros and being super specific. But what you should do is you should track your protein every day to start getting in the habit, because eventually you're going to need to get into the bulking and cutting cycle if you want to put on big size. So download an app called Chronometer, okay? Chronometer. Or the other app that might be a little bit simpler for you to use and start out with is called MyFitnessPal. Again, go on the App Store, go on Google Play Store, download either one of those apps, open up an account on those apps, and start logging in every single day what you're eating so that you can see your protein, right? That's all we're doing. You don't need to worry about the calories and all this like calculations and shit. Just worry about putting in the protein so you can make sure you're getting enough protein in, right? And you want to be hitting, like we said, try to aim for 1 gram per pound or at least like 0.8, 0.7, whatever. Try to make sure you're logging that in every single day so you can start to get in the habit and get ready for actually tracking your calories and stuff. It's going to be very difficult for you to jump into the gym, make sure you have all the exercises down, stick to a schedule, track your weight, track all your calories. Like doing all that at once is just way too much, man. So for now, just focus on tracking your protein and do it through one of those apps. Just plug in the food that you're eating. There's a little scanner on it, so you can take your phone and just scan the package of whatever you're eating, or you can weigh it or whatever. Put that in there and start looking at that number where it says protein and just see how much that is and see if you can kind of hit it every day. It's like a video game, right? It's like a video game. You're trying to get that score every single day where you're getting it close. So think of it that way, kind of just a little mental hack, for those of us who grew up constantly playing video games is use that to your advantage in the real world and try to look at it as a game. So we got all this stuff down. That's great. But what do you do in terms of bulking, cutting? Should I do this? Should I do that? So many people ask me, what should I do? I don't know if I should bulk. I don't know if I should cut. Here's the thing, okay? I can only speak from my own experience and my own sort of information that I have. So what I can say is when I started lifting, I was what's called skinny fat, okay? So that's who I can really help here, skinny fat. Skinny fat means when you have excess body fat, your body fat percentage is too high, it's too much. So it kind of makes you look chubby and flabby. And the muscle that you should have, you don't have. So it's like low muscle definition because you haven't been lifting or following a good program, and a high level of body fat. So basically you end up in this position where you kind of look normal when you wear a coat or you're in clothes. You don't actually look super overweight and you don't look super skinny, but when you take your shirt off, you kind of maybe feel a little insecure or embarrassed because you just look flabby, man. Or your self-esteem isn't really there, your confidence isn't there because you just don't look good. You don't look very extreme on either of the extremes of being super fat or super skinny, but you're just not there, right? It's like you got that kind of the belly, your chest is weak, your shoulders are kind of your arms are flabby, and you've just got excess body fat and not enough muscle. So if you're in this position, I can really help you because this is what I did and it really worked well for me. What you can do is just simply do what's called a body recomposition. Now, I'm not going to go in depth with this because that would make this video another 10 minutes long. But essentially what a body recomp is you are going into the gym, you're progressive overloading and making it so that your body has to start growing muscle, right? You're putting that weight on it so it has to start growing muscle. Then what you're doing is you are slightly, okay? You may not even have to. Honestly, you might be able to just stay at maintenance calories, but you're slightly going into a deficit, so you start slowly losing that body fat. And what happens is your body goes through a transition where your body fat's up here, your muscle's here, but when you recomp, you start building that muscle up slowly, right? And then when you're in a little bit of a deficit, maybe 200 calories or something really low, you start slowly coming down in body fat and you start going through this position and all of a sudden, bam, you hit right here and it's just like your body just looks amazing. And so you're in a really good position because you don't have to go through a super serious cut or a super serious bulk in order to gain muscle mass. You can just do a recomp. And that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what worked well for me. Now, when you hit this position and you start noticing, oh, I got some good results, I'm looking pretty hot, what you can do is you can either decide, I'm going to go bulk now and I'm going to start building muscle and adding a little bit of fat, or if you want to, you can do a cut. So I'm going to start actually cutting, and I'm going to start losing more and more fat, and I might lose a little bit of muscle if I do things right. I might do a little bit down, and then that's when you get like the six pack. So it really depends on what your goals are after you do the recomp, but you really want to start with the recomp because you are in a very perfect position of being a newbie lifter, which is perfect for a body recomp. It's one of the most effective times for you to try to do a recomp is when you've been not lifting for a long time or ever and you just get into it, because that's when your body can really build that muscle and burn fat at the same time. Or if you're someone who's really overweight, you're going to have to go for a drastic cut. And if you're someone who's really skinny, you're going to have to go for a bulk. But if you're skinny fat, you're in that great position where you go for the recomp and everything will just be perfect. From that point, you can decide whether you want to cut or bulk depending on your goals, depending on what time of year it is. Maybe it's like summertime is coming up and you want to cut, which is what I did. I went straight from that recomp into a cut to kind of show off the muscle I had built. And it worked out fine. And now I'm back into bulk again. So that's basically it. And one more thing I want to throw at you before you get off this video, I know it's been a long one, is think about also your sleep, right? Sleep is like key, man, because sleep is when your body actually rebuilds the muscle. It's not actually happening when you're in the gym. When you're in the gym, what you're doing is you're breaking down the muscle. You're actually destroying it. You're ripping it apart, right? When you go to sleep, that's when it gets repaired. So you want to actually focus on getting a good amount of sleep and actually getting quality sleep. So don't throw that out the window. Don't go lifting and be like, oh, let me go out. I'm gonna party tonight until 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. I'm not saying that you can't party, but like in general, you want to actually make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're getting whatever that amount of sleep is for you. It could be 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, 7 hours. I don't fucking know. But just make sure you're getting a good amount of sleep so that your body can actually repair. Because if it can't ever repair, you're not going to see the growth that you want to see. So I'm going to end this video now because I've been going on for literally, I don't even know how long, and I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. If you made it to the end, you are a G, and I hope that you take these tips. I hope you take these steps and you implement them into your life and you see great results. The main thing is just to stay steady with these things, stay consistent. Delayed gratification is the name of the game. And if you have that delayed gratification, but you also work hard, right? You work hard and you keep going fast and you follow these tips and you implement this strategy, you will literally see your physique transform, and it will happen fast. This doesn't need to take 5 years. This doesn't need to even take 3 years. And we all have different levels of genetics and everything, but like this can actually be pretty quick for you, and you could actually make it even quicker than it took me because I was making all these mistakes. So use this video as a guide and just use it to come back to if you ever forget kind of what stage you're at or what you should be doing. And yeah, man, just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.